Yo, what the fuck is good, everybody? This is Ghost. Really happy to be back. And today I want to talk about AI and beatboxing, specifically how AI is incompatible with the beatboxing art form. I decided to talk about this topic because I was looking at like the Suno advertisement thing with beatboxing. You might have seen it recently. And I was looking at that and I was like, wow, this could actually make a pretty good topic for discussion, you know? So if you guys have your own takes and you want to participate in this discourse, I highly encourage you to leave them in the comments. I would love to read what you guys have to say and engage with them personally, because I think this is a topic that is very relevant at the time, right? You know, AI is becoming one of those things that's seemingly taking everything the fuck over. And, you know, eventually it's now, because of that advertisement, it's making its way towards beatboxing. And this is a conversation that we should have, right? So I've been looking at this whole AI thing and I'm like, wow, this is never going to affect beatboxing. I was already so confident in that when the AI trend started happening, and I'm still pretty confident in that. It's not going to do shit to beatboxing. Like, it's actually going to do like very little damage in my opinion, and I'll go into why. But to preface this conversation, one, my day job is a contractual project manager, right? And a lot of the projects that I do are unfortunately related to LLM training, right? So I bring that up for two reasons. One, I am not in a position to judge people for using AI to make money, because that's like a lot of the projects that I do and I make money doing that, right? So I can't judge people for that, but I can judge people for using AI as part of their creative process, because I don't do that. I think the only time I've ever tried was like, I saw like the fucking AI button on like my video editing software, like, let AI make your video. And I'm like, all right, here's a bunch of clips, try it. And it made the biggest, most useless piece of shit I've ever seen in my life. And it was fucking embarrassing. I was curious and I'm like, wow, this couldn't even subtitle shit. Like I think I told it to like subtitle something and it just like didn't. So I'll fucking like get a real subtitler, I guess, if we ever come down to that. If you guys want subtitles in the videos, let me know, I'll add them. But yeah, like that was just like the most useless fucking thing ever. I don't think I've ever used AI in any other way creatively. But yeah, the original point was that I work in AI. So not only do I feel like I'm not in a position to judge people for using AI to make money, but I also want to mention that while I'm not the most like grandiose expert on this topic, I don't think I'm a layman either. So maybe I'll be able to bring up some particular points with AI that are relevant to the conversation, because whenever I see people like in the comments of whatever saying, oh, AI is the future, I'm like looking at these comments as someone who works with AI, being like, wow, you don't know fucking anything about this topic. You are actually just spouting random garbage. So before I go into like the beatboxing part of this discussion, I should also give like my general take on AI. I think AI, if it were to be developed sustainably without taking over every fucking farmland and melting every ice cap on Earth, could have had potential if it was applied to things like medical advancements or distribution of resources in communities. Instead, how I see it being used is catfishing people on Tinder by having fake faces, raising the price of every electronic thing astronomically, and also being used to make like these fucking AI movies that no one asked for. So it's kind of like cryptocurrency, where like it was kind of legitimate to start with, but because of all the scams and like the annoyingness of the community, and then people who are corrupt, like for example, Sam Bankman-Fried, like making crypto into like a super scam, it just like destroyed all the momentum, all the legitimacy that cryptocurrency had, because of all the immoral nonsense going on, all the stupidity. And I feel like AI is the same way. There's all this stupidity, all this ethical consequence around it, that I think it's going to be one of those things that blows over. Honestly, the whole thing with my day job, I don't expect it to last that long. I'm eventually going to have to find some projects not related to AI in order to sustain myself, because a lot of my projects are AI related right now. It's not something that I expect to last forever. And then when you apply the whole AI thing to beatboxing, it gets even worse, because AI is so fucking incompatible with beatboxing from the get-go. I think the best thing I've ever seen AI do with beatboxing is make a Kanye West Den cover. That is the only funny thing I've seen with AI and beatboxing ever. I think everything else is just a complete waste, useless piece of garbage. So let's go into it. Why is AI incompatible with beatboxing, and why will AI never replace beatboxing? One, what is the definition of beatboxing? Let's argue semantics here. So I think everyone might define beatboxing with different words, but I think we can all agree that a useful definition for beatboxing is that you are creating music with your voice. Your voice. You are not using a clanker's voice. You are owning the creative process through your own voice. So already it is incompatible with AI from the get-go, because AI, what it does is that it takes from all of these open internet files and it creates like this mishmash of garbage and spews something out. It is an incredibly hands-off process when the idea of beatboxing is that it is as hands-on as possible. It is authentically coming from your body and your voice and your mind. You own pretty much every part of the creative process, right? And then the only tools you use are a microphone, a speaker, and in some cases a loop station. But your beatboxing isn't meant to serve those tools. Those tools are meant to serve your music, right? So already it's incompatible. Like if you think about art as a definition, like there's different definitions for art, but I like to think about it as like this relationship between the artist, the spectator, and the creation, kind of like this triangle, right? And in between each relationship in this triangle, there's a lot of hands-on interactions happening. When you take AI, it kind of just like perverts this whole triangle. It kind of just like destroys everything through its hands-off nature. So that's why I think like AI is not just incompatible with beatboxing, but incompatible with a lot of art in general, especially art that is supposed to be based on limitations, which brings me to my second point. Why do people watch beatboxing? Now, there's a lot of reasons why we watch beatboxing, but I think a reason that we can all agree on is that there is a lot of impressiveness and a lot of authenticity that beatboxing comes from your voice and your body, and only those things, right? Just like how when we watch a dancer, yeah, there's music in the background, maybe they coordinate outfits, but dancing, they're using their own bodies. That is impressive, that is authentic, that is engaging, and that's cool to look at. Singing, that voice is yours. When people do gymnastics, that is extremely athletic and impressive. We like to watch that. When we watch a Cirque du Soleil performance, right? There's like one guy using a ladder. The ladder is not leaning against anything. And then that person is somehow climbing the ladder. That's an impressive display of athleticism. And you could say like, oh, but the ladder's a tool being used in this process. Yes, but the tool is highlighting the performer's athleticism. It's not the performer who is highlighting the ladder. You know what I mean? So when it comes to limitations, that is oftentimes the reason why we enjoy art, is because we enjoy seeing an artist go through the process of bumping into walls and then finding the way forward through that. Limitations are often what create the beauty in art. Like especially if you look at dancing, when you're doing a group dance, yes, sometimes it's technologically assisted, but the highlight of the dancing is still the dancing itself, right? And of course, there are performances that are more technologically assisted, and you might still enjoy that, right? But you would then be enjoying it for a different reason. So that's number two. Spectatorship with beatboxing, AI is incompatible with that as well. Number three, AI is incompatible with the origin of beatboxing. So if you don't know how beatboxing started, if you look at the Questlove Supreme podcast with Dougie Fresh had all these different anecdotes and stories about, Harlem around 1982, which is arguably where beatboxing started, in the inner city of New York. And he was talking about how schools, their music programs, were being cut due to funding. So kids didn't have access to instruments. Kids didn't have access to drums. There weren't a lot of turntables going around. If there were bands, they didn't know how to be the backline for every artist in that community. And despite all of these issues with, a lack of funding, a lack of money, and the overall poverty and underrepresentation of these inner city communities of New York, people still needed to find a way to create community, to share art. And that is how beatboxing organically evolved, is that people would listen to, songs on the radio. They were created with their mouth. And then it created this culture of fuck these instruments. Let's get a beatboxer. A beatboxer will back me up. Oh, you're going to have this rap battle? Oh, there's a beatboxer down the street. Let's get him. And that was kind of like the culture that was created around beatboxing. It is a toolless art. And you know what AI is? It is a tool. So why the fuck does beatboxing need AI? Like beatboxing is supposed to exist without tools that are not a speaker, a microphone, and in some cases a loop station. What the fuck does AI even add here? Like there's no point to it. Like especially if you look at the origin, like the way, like the way it originated was to replace these tools. Like they didn't have access to instruments. They wanted to create beatboxing, and then beatboxing became so advanced, so impressive. People loved it so much, you know. Dougie Fresh was talking about these stories of performing in front of like 15,000 people at the Garden, and people were freaking out. People were losing their minds. They're like, wow, that's so amazing. And then beatboxing became a standalone art, something that could stand on its own two legs, the fifth element of hip hop, because it was fucking awesome by itself. AI, we do not need that shit. Which brings me to my final point. So what can AI do to beatboxing? There is a little bit of damage that AI can do to beatboxing. And that is because every art form has its intersectionality. So if you look at beatboxing, right? Beatboxing by itself, AI is not compatible with, right? But, you know, when you're creating beatbox videos, there's that video production element. When you're creating, you know, like beatboxing events, beatboxing, you know, like music videos and stuff, there's audio, maybe there's like thumbnails, there's visuals. There might be some other technical element that involves a tool in collaboration with beatboxing. And that is where AI can attack beatboxing. It can't attack beatboxing itself, but every art form has its different intersectionalities with other art forms. Those other art forms are more tool assisted. And because AI is a tool can conflict and replace another tool. And that is where there might be issues, right? So that is why I think there still should be some caution around this discussion and where AI might be like replacing some things related to beatboxing or not. But let's bring up this worst case scenario. Let's say AI ends up being really useful in all the aspects around beatboxing, like video production, visuals, audio, engineering, all of that stuff, right? Because these are all tool assisted processes. And then it turns out that beatboxing is marketed better and there's like more worldwide interest because of AI being integrated in this way. Well, when those people are interested, you know what we're gonna do as a community? They're gonna come to events because they see this AI beatboxing shit, and then we're gonna show them the real fucking thing on stage, on a Discord battle, while we're busking, while we're just out with friends. We're gonna show them the real fucking thing and show them what the real deal is and how fucking awesome beatboxing is in the real way, right? And if they don't like your beatbox, like for example, if they don't like my beatboxing, then you know what? The next person's gonna come up and they're gonna show their beatboxing and they're gonna like that. If they don't like that, then the next person's gonna come up. We as beatboxers, we do not fucking give up. We're gonna show people how fucking awesome this art form is, and no AI, no technology is gonna get in the way of that. Like we are going to convince people the right way. If AI ever comes to a point where it replaces the whole marketing aspect of beatboxing, we're going to figure out how to work around that. Right. So let me go into the next couple of topics that I wanted to talk about, which is AI with current beatboxers. Right. So actually, to be honest, I cannot comment on most beatboxers with AI. Right. And the reason why is because I don't watch that shit. So honestly, I can't comment because I don't watch it. Like I try to avoid watching anything that makes me dumber. And I feel like if I watch any beatboxing project with like AI visuals or like AI in the audio editing or something like that, I'm just gonna become dumber by the end, and I don't want to become a dumber person. What I can say is that I did watch the whole thing with Chihuahua and the like Suno like thing. And if you know what Suno, if you don't know what Suno is, it is this AI based company for music. It's based in Cambridge, and Chihuahua made an advertisement around this showing how beatboxing can be used with Suno. And if you know about Suno's reputation, you will know that they are infamous due to many lawsuits for taking open internet music files and basically plagiarizing them and taking music that is already available online and using that to support its AI programming. Basically, it is committing theft. It is exactly that thing that a lot of the artist community hates about AI. And you know, Chihuahua made an advertisement with this company that is inherently kind of against the spirit of AI. So how should we respond to this thing? If you look at the comments under Chihuahua's advertisement, there is a lot of distaste for what is happening, even very big names in beatboxing criticizing what is going on, especially because Chihuahua is one of like the role models in the community, in my opinion. Like she is someone that is one of the faces of beatboxing. So, a lot of people were very disappointed to see this. Now, I don't know how people are gonna receive me saying this, but I actually don't really like the public chastising. I think, like, of course you can express your distaste, but like try to be constructive about it. Chihuahua's still a member of the community. I think, we should talk to her as if she's a normal person, as if she's an artist among us, like, yeah, it kind of sucked that she did this advertisement for Suno, but we don't know why she did it. Like, I mean, maybe we do know why. It was probably for the bag. but once again, I can't really judge someone for that. But like, just have a conversation with her. Like, try to be conversive. Try to like really like understand her perspective on this. She's still a member of the community. I don't think we should be like treating her like so harshly. You know what I mean? People can make mistakes. Even if they do make a mistake, we should be like forgiving about that. You know what I mean? Or maybe not forgiving, but we should at least be like an open ear to like the kind of things that might come up in that kind of conversation. So let's try to hear from Chihuahua in this situation. I know some people might not like this take. They might just want to like be at her throat or something like that. But that's what I think is like we should just like be constructive about this whole thing. So the last thing I want to talk about is the AI is the future argument, and that there are some people who believe like as an artist or as a career-oriented person in general, you should embrace AI. And the reason why you should embrace AI is because it is the reality of the world right now. Like if you want to be a career-oriented person, if you want to succeed in that way, you have to understand current systems. And AI is unequivocally a system that is very contemporary, that is trending, and is likely going to be relevant in the future. So that is true. But at the same time, I feel like when people say like, oh, AI is the future, they're like very reckless about it. And they don't think about the ramifications of like how you should actually integrate it into your workflow, how you should actually integrate it into your life, especially as an artist. If you're integrating it into the creative process of doing your beats, then you're not beatboxing by definition. Beatboxing is not supposed to be assisted by something like AI. And if you're like integrating it into things like the video production aspects of it, that deserves a further conversation. I'll think more on this topic, but I don't like that either, to be honest. And I don't really watch or engage with stuff that is using AI as any part of the creative process around beatboxing, even in the like intersectionalities of it. Once again, AI is something that can be used for good, like with the medical or like the resource distribution end of things, but that is not what I'm seeing of it. What I'm seeing is people ignoring like the ethical ramifications, like the artist community ramifications of AI. And I think people are just being very, very reckless about this whole thing, especially when they're making a claim like, oh, AI is the future, we should embrace it and stuff like that. And honestly, I have not seen any sort of AI art around beatboxing that is worth a fucking damn besides those Kanye West AI Den covers. Like that is the only funny thing I've seen. Otherwise, all I've seen is absolute fucking garbage. Beatboxers do not need AI. It is incompatible. And yeah, that is my take on the topic. I'm going to think more on the whole, like, what do I think about AI on like the video editing aspects or AI audio, like whatever that stuff, like audio engineering, mixing. I am personally disapproving right now, but once again, I want to think more on this topic. So yeah, let me know what your thoughts are on this whole topic. And yeah, that is pretty much it. Thanks for joining me again, motherfuckers. I'm out.